Hello sexy beast and welcome back to Wearable Wet Dream Simulator 2019. This is the VT1-2. Full name Versuchsträger 1-2. This is going to be the upcoming rewards tank for the event that is starting tomorrow on the 3rd of October. And today I'm going to show you what this thing is all about and what the stats are currently. Keep in mind, this is early stuff, and stats might not be completely finalized at the time being, but it's a general idea of what you can expect, and hopefully to help you decide if you want to actually grind for this thing or not. If I had to write a very brief summary of the VT1-2 to describe what this vehicle is about, it's essentially a double-barrel shotgun glass cannon that happens to be a jet. This thing is extremely quick, it has 2 guns firing very quickly, and it's currently at battle rating 8.3, more on that a little bit later. Let's start with the basics. As you can see, you have the MRX right in the middle and only 3 crew. Despite the size of this tank, they are pretty closely held together. Which is a bit of an issue, because the frontal armor plate is extremely weak, and any kind of hit will most likely result in a one-shot kill. It doesn't really seem like this vehicle has any kind of hull break at the moment. In fact, we're going to test this out against the VT1-2 we have over there. But yes, we hit the tracks with the engine with HeatFS. It didn't get a hull break per se, but really anywhere you hit through the front, you are going to be killing at least 2 of the crew. You might also be wondering what is happening on the top left corner of the screen and how I'm able to aim this gun so precisely, because keep in mind, the one unique thing you need to know about this vehicle is that the guns are horizontally fixed. They do not have any kind of traverse. Instead, just like with the real prototype, you were supposed to turn the whole tank in order to aim the guns. Like some very famous Swedish tank destroyers, which might or might not be being hinted at given the introduction of this mechanic. Wink wink. So specifically for this vehicle there's a new mechanic in the game. You can find this mechanic over here in the tank movement controls. It currently doesn't have a proper name, but this is the string for it. You simply keybind it and it allows you to enable aiming with the mouse. Now the hold traverse of this vehicle is pretty quick, which makes the aiming pretty quick, but as you can see it does hick up a little bit towards the end of the travel, making it perhaps not the best for quick snapshots. That, and in the gunner side, is also quite a bit harder to respond to where you want to aim the gun. Or in this case, 2 guns. The VT1-2 features 220mm smoothbore Rheinmetall L44 guns. You know the guns already, these are the same ones as featured in Leopard 2, and these also come with stock HeatFS, an upgrade option of DM13 APFSDS, and DM23 APFSDS as well. In fact, I currently have DM23 loaded in the left gun, and it can go through the turret front of an M1A1 Abrams. Not that that is really much of an issue, because it will never face M1A1 Abrams. Now the guns are fully stabilized in the vertical, which is decent I suppose, but really is not useful at all given that you don't have any kind of traverse and as such. Aiming whilst on the move is going to be pretty much impossible. You have to kind of guess where the enemy is and do a snapshot like that. It's not precise aiming whilst on the move. In fact, the hull traverse mechanic only really works when you are stationary. It does re-enable itself automatically when you stop, once you have at least enabled it once in the battle, but it does not work whilst it's moving. As for gun handling, the left gun has a autoloader with a 5-second reload, and the right gun is manually loaded with a 7.5-second reload, giving this vehicle a total combined fire rate of about 20 rounds per minute, or on average 1 shot every 3 seconds. As you can guess, that is an extreme amount of firepower and can be used to quickly dispatch of enemies. The vertical limits are pretty standard. You get a 15-degree elevation and a -10-degree gun depression. Pretty bog standard for NATO tanks. There is no turret traverse per se, since it doesn't have a turret, or any kind of traverse for the guns really, but given the extremely powerful engine, the traverse is actually pretty good. All this footage is in realistic mode, by the way, which might surprise you given what I'm about to show you. I want you to look at the top left corner at the speed. Again, keep in mind, this is in realistic mode and we are currently off-road. The VT1-2 has a 2200 horsepower engine and weighs only 43.5 tons, giving it a total power-to-weight ratio of over 50 horsepower per ton. This results in what is likely the best acceleration out of any tank in the game right now, as well as the best hill climbing abilities. Despite this absolutely ridiculously overpowered engine, it is limited in top speed. Not by the engine itself, but rather by the gearing, only being able to reach 70 km/h both forwards and backwards. As you can see, even climbing up this very steep hill, it still maintains a very good speed. That is really the power of this engine. Now, this is a bit of a controversial point for many of you, most likely. The VT1-2 was in fact able to reach even more of a power output through the engine. It had a temporary boost of 2400 horsepower, which is 200 more than what we have currently in the game. But that was a very limited output. Running under normal operations, it would only get 1500 horsepower, much like the Kampfpanzer 70. However, since there are no weapon mechanics for tanks in the game, not like aircraft, you just get a single fixed value, and Gaijin decided to go with 2200 horsepower. That is not supposed to happen, just disregard the bottom background. Apparently he has some controversy that we do not. Something that I quickly want to mention before we go ahead into the armor and survivability section of this video is hydropneumatic suspension or lack thereof. Now, the Versuchsträger 1-2 is based on a shortened Kampfpanzer 70 hull, which does feature that type of suspension. However, I couldn't find anywhere it being mentioned that this specific vehicle also had access to that. Neither if it was removed, or if it was implemented, or if it even had any kind of controls for it. In fact, in the game files, as it currently stands, the VT1-2 does not get hydropneumatic suspension. However, I was able to make it work by porting over some of the code from the Kampfpanzer 70. And as such, I just want to show what it would look like if it did get hydropneumatic suspension. As you can see, you can make this tank just a bread box. Pretty damn low profile. You could probably disguise this as a shipping container on the new cargo port map. Or if traversing over rough terrain is more your thing, or going through puddles as well, because having your hull higher does mean that you can traverse through water a bit quicker. You can also elevate the suspension. And of course, you would also be able to increase the gun depression even more, making it even better at cresting hills. There is a bit of a caveat though. Because of this vehicle's necessity to traverse the whole hull when trying to aim the guns, it makes it inherently bad at trying to aim when you are on a slope. It can't quite maintain a neutral traverse whilst you are on a hill. Which makes it a bit complicated, because whenever you want to change your aim, you are going to be rolling forward ever so slightly, losing your position. The same thing, of course, when trying to aim up. Eventually, you are simply going to be rolling behind the hill, which makes aiming over crests really awkward. Now, as you've no doubt noticed, the guns are very far apart from one another, and the gunner's sight is this pylon over here, which makes aiming the guns actually pretty challenging, especially at very close ranges. As you can see, the left gun went over to the 16 mark on the left side, and the right gun went to the 16 mark on the right side. This difference isn't going to be as pronounced at longer ranges. It does seem like the guns do converge somewhat, but at very close ranges you can indeed entirely miss a tank. In fact, one of the best ways to counter one of these things in the wild would be to simply facehug it. Our guns can't hit that T-80. They are simply both firing to the side. I have no doubt that some very smart people will be able to create custom gun sights that account for the distance of the guns, and as such will allow you to aim accurately at any range, really. But stock, this is an issue that you have to keep in mind. However, this can also be an advantage. Given that the entirety of our crew is compacted right in the middle, and any kind of penetration is going to result in a one-shot kill on you, you can, however, use the fact that the guns are mounted so far apart and so far towards the corner to corner peek in close quarter combat situations. Now, of course, this way you can't use your gun sight at all, because it is completely hidden by the wall, but you can kind of try and guesstimate where the enemy is and fire that way. Of course, this is going to be a bit more effective with the left gun rather than the right gun, because left gun does have the faster fire rate and the bigger ammo pool, but you really aren't limited to what kind of corner you want to occupy. As for interesting upgrades, there's only really two major ones that I am more concerned about. This tank does get access to a laser rangefinder as a tier 4 upgrade, which is going to make it extremely good at long range sniping. Keep in mind you get an average of one shot every 3 seconds, and with a laser rangefinder and the amount of muzzle velocity that the APF-SDS has, as well as the penetration, at this low of a battle rating, you really are not going to have any trouble sniping multiple enemies at extremely long ranges, where the distance of the guns isn't that much of a concern. Besides that, it also gets access to night vision equipment, but not thermal vision. It is just regular infrared night vision, and I do not believe that it gets a spotlight either, which makes it mostly redundant, really. Now finally let's get to the armor, and for this I will have to jump into a couple of vehicles and test it out against that vehicle in the front when we do some armor penetration. What you need to know is that this tank was experimental and was never fitted with proper armor. As such, all the plates are made of structural steel. Now, structural steel in War Thunder has a very low multiplier for actual armor effectiveness. Where World Tormentor's armor is the baseline, 1.0 multiplier, structural steel only has a 0.45 multiplier, meaning it's only 45% as effective as World Tormentor's armor. To put this into a perspective that you can really visualize, a 100mm plate of structural steel in War Thunder only equates to 45mm of World Tormentor's armor. And this is very important to know about this tank, because the frontal plate only has between 30 to 50mm of armor, of structural steel armor, meaning that the actual effective thickness of the plates is somewhere between 15 to 25mm. Now, this does not account for the slope, keep in mind, but it does mean that 50 caliber ammunition can actually go through the front of this vehicle when it is aimed down. I did find in testing that 50 caliber ammunition cannot reliably penetrate this tank from the front on flat level firing arcs, essentially. You have to get right up close into its face and fire down into the plate. However, the side plate is very weak. Not only is it completely flat, it is also thinner than the frontal plate, giving it about 9 to 15mm of effective RHA equivalent, which means that yes, 50 caliber ammunition can actually one-shot this tank from the side. Let me show you. Alright, I just grabbed myself an M18 to showcase the armor profile. So, as I said, through the front you can't really penetrate this vehicle. It simply does not work. However, when you come up to the side, and especially when you aim for just the exact same spot, and this is something that you have to keep in mind, you can't really damage it through here because there is a massive gun breach in the way, but if you aim slightly below, to this plate over here, you can one-shot the entire crew with a single 50 caliber bullet. Interesting enough though, the upper plate seems to be able to actually deflect 50 caliber bullets pretty well, at least where the crew compartment sits. That doesn't quite extend to the rear, where you have a fuel tank. If you want to set fires with the 50 cals, you can actually do so. Or you can even destroy the engine. Takes a few shots, but is doable. And of course, with the engine being down, it likely is unable to actually aim its guns. And of course, anything that is 20mm up has absolutely no issue with going through the front. To note here is that this plate over here is actually a bit thicker than the hatches for the crew. So if you want to get a very guaranteed shots at long ranges, just aim for the hatches. And this isn't even to speak of the armor on top of the hull, which is even weaker and can even be penned by aircraft extremely easily. Any kind of artillery hit, any kind of aircraft attack, any kind of rocket, any kind of bomb fragmentation, anything really will be most likely resulting in the quick dispatchal of this vehicle. Apart from the hard stats, I also have access to some of the metadata of this vehicle. It currently costs 170,000 silver lines to put this into a crew slot, which is not too bad for a rank 6 tank destroyer, which is what this is. It also currently has a 5,500 silver line repair cost in realistic mode, which once again is really not too bad. And it is not a premium tank. Out of all the vehicles that are coming in the upcoming events, this is the only one that is not a premium, and as such you will have to go through the stock grind. That said, being classified as a tank destroyer and being at a battle rating of 8.3, it is going to be extremely cheap and extremely effective to spawn out into what is predominantly going to be 8.7 matchmakers. Yes, you heard that right. The battle rating for this thing is currently coded to be 8.3. A 50 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio, 70 km per hour forwards and backwards, double barrel 120mm Rheinmetall smoothbore gun having auto-loading stabilized vehicle with a average fire rate of 3 seconds per shot or 20 shots per minute, with access to DM23 shells, is at 8.3. Right. I don't think I need to explain why this might be a slightly bad idea. I can kind of get where they're coming from. This is not a noob-friendly vehicle. You don't have armor. The guns are very hard to use if you don't know how to compensate for the offset of them. But this is still the fastest vehicle, or at least the quickest mobility vehicle in the game. It might not have the highest top speed, but the power to weight ratio means it's going to maintain 70 km per hour over pretty much any terrain and any conditions. It's going to be on average the fastest vehicle in the game to get into positions, with the fastest fire rate out of all 120mm guns, given that it has 2 of them. Yes, it might have shit survivability. Yes, it might have extremely shit armor, but with a laser rangefinder, the kind of mobility it has, the kind of mountain climbing ability it has, this thing is going to be an absolute weapon in the hands of an experienced player. I can already see the Thunder Show entries for top plays of the week, where someone just gets on the flank of an attacking team and literally kills 5 tanks in the space of less than 10 seconds. It's insane. Now, of course, it is preliminary, to be fair. It might just be a placeholder belt rating. At the same time, this tank does seem very finished for what it is. Now, of course, all the testing I've done and all the stat reading I've done is really just that. It's just speculation. We don't know how this thing will actually perform in actual battles. We'll have to wait for that. I have a feeling it's going to be like the AUBL, but even worse. Lots of new players who don't know what they're doing, getting their hands on this tank, not having any kind of backup, and completely ruining the winning chances of anything in the battle rating range of this thing. Just going to get spammed to shit, and it's going to get very easily dispatched off because people don't know how to play it. But once that initial spam dies down, which, by the way, is probably going to be providing data for Gaijin to believe that it is rightfully at 8.3. I mean, it's doing terrible. Once its spam has died down, and once the really dedicated players figure out how to really play this thing well, I have a feeling this is going to be one of the highest skill ceiling vehicles in the game, and one that really rewards good plays the most. It has a shit ton of potential. It has some very hard drawbacks, but has a shit ton of potential. And that is the Versuchsträger 1-2. Yeah. It's essentially just one big box of memes. It's going to be an utter glass cannon, but the speed, both of the vehicle itself and of the guns, is going to be just absolutely insane, and I fully expect this to be nerfed to shit half a year down from now, when it doesn't make any more profit on the Gaijin market. But this is going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this preview. Let me know what you really think of this vehicle in the comments down below. I'm actually really interested to see what you guys think. 8.3 for this thing, for every stats that I've just told. Do you think it's justified? I don't know, I'm skeptical. I'm really excited to get this thing, and I'm actually going to be streaming the entire grind over on twitch.tv. Because this is probably going to be the only vehicle I'm going to go for. I already have the Whirlwind P9, I don't care about boats, and the helicopter can go bleep itself. This is really the only vehicle that I'm going to go for, and that I have a feeling many people are going to go for. And, well, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing performs. But anyways lads, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you did, do consider giving a like to the video. This took quite a bit of work to get all the data compiled. If you're around here, subscribe, we're going to be doing more content on, well, War Thunder in general very soon. I know I've been gone for the past month, but there's a very good reason which I'm going to be explaining in the next video, so stay tuned for that. And I hope you have a great day. As always, my name is MikeGoesBoom, and thank you for watching. Ah, damn it, I couldn't fire both guns at the same time. There we go.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find